After 67 March Madness games, some epic upsets, and 4 Blue Bloods throwing down in the Final Four, college basketball wrapped up the season this week, crowning the Kansas Jayhawks national champions. What is up, sports fans? Welcome to the SuperBook Sports Podcast. I'm Ron Kruck, joined by the men behind the counter, as always, at the SuperBook at the Westgate in Las Vegas. Longtime odds makers, Jay Kornegay, and this week in for John Murray, who I guess is probably still celebrating his NCAA bracket victory over me and Jay. We welcome in SuperBook odds maker and resident golf wagering specialist, Jeff Sherman. Jeff, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, and I have to clarify that about John. I think he's involved with some Liverpool action today.
Oh, wow. The odds on that he would be checking out Liverpool. 2-1, Jay?
Yeah, he's I have to say I probably have some inside information on that one. He's probably 3 suds in right now.
Yeah, and of course he did beat us in his Final Four pick, so I'm sure he's celebrating that. But Jeff, we're glad to have you. Jeff is going to get us geared up for the 86th annual Masters tournament later in the show. But first, Jay, let's wrap up what was really an exciting and unpredictable college basketball season. I'm sure you and the guys at SuperBook were sweating it out when Kansas was down by 16 points at halftime. You told us last week you had some major futures liabilities on North Carolina, who just a few weeks ago was a major dog, and the book needed the Jayhawks to win. Give us the details and how it all played out.
Yeah, Ron, it was well, let's just say I switched from beer to vodka at halftime. And it was
You're so even keel.
That was really the key on the comeback. But we actually, it was there's 2 stories about that. Outside Nevada, we had quite a bit of liability attached to North Carolina, as it was a popular bet in some of these other jurisdictions, especially Colorado and New Jersey. In Nevada, they weren't a fan favorite at all. We had very little action on the Tar Heels and the Jayhawks in the future book. And we were sitting very pretty in Nevada on both teams. In fact, by the time it tipped off, there was so much action on Kansas in Nevada that, North Carolina was a very popular or very solid result for us. But in the other jurisdictions, it did kind of come in very evenly, but overall, we'll take it. It was a very satisfying win for us. I know that it certainly saved us some liability in some of the other states, even though North Carolina was a better result for us in Nevada. So overall, we'll take it. And I tell you what, the tournament was one of the better tournaments we've had in a long time, and it seemed like day after day we were doing pretty well. So we're thankful for that as well.
Well, I wish we would have had the live webcams in the back of the SuperBook at the Westgate while you guys were at halftime, and then the celebration after. Great stories. What a year it was. North Carolina was the underdog, plus 4.5 or plus 4 in some places. They covered their 6th straight game, and UNC covered the spread in their 10th out of 11 games. What a run if you were on that Tar Heel train. But they just couldn't get over that hump. They were the 5th number 8 seed to make it to the title game. But now those number 8 seeds are down to 1-4. Before we wrap up the season, Jay, just what was like the atmosphere like at the SuperBook at the Westgate?
Well, it was electric, as you can imagine. We had all the Blue Bloods in the Final Four, and then 2 storied programs in the final. And there was a tremendous amount of action, a lot of support on both sides of it. But people were, and not just Nevada, but in other jurisdictions, they were leaning towards the Jayhawks. It seemed like they were migrating to that side. But again, by the time it tipped off, we were looking good on both ends, so we were very fortunate.
Hey, and don't worry, just because the college basketball season is over, it's still a great time to sign up at superbook.com. Download the app and get ready for the Master, the NHL and NBA playoffs, and of course, the Major League Baseball season. Right now, SuperBook will match new customers' initial deposit by up to 100%, up to $500. So make that first deposit in your SuperBook Arizona, Colorado, or New Jersey account, and SuperBook will match that initial deposit by 100%, up to $500. All right, we now go from the hardwood to the tradition unlike any other. The Masters tournament happening in Augusta, Georgia, April 7th through the 10th. And we have the right man to preview the Masters with us, SuperBook oddsmaker and resident golf guru, Jeff Sherman, to preview the tournament. Jeff, really, there's so many storylines going into this year's Masters. Probably on the top of the list would be, of course, will Tiger Woods play for the first time in 14 months after really that horrific car accident he was involved in? Can last year's champion, Hideki Matsuyama, fight through some injuries himself? Will he play and maybe get that green jacket 2 years in a row? And can Rory McIlroy finally complete his Grand Slam bid? So many questions, Jeff. What's your biggest storyline going into the 86 Masters? And I'm just going to go out on a limb saying maybe it's the Tiger watch. I don't know.
Yeah, there's no question about that. I mean, whether he's there or not there, it's always Tiger Woods. And, he's had the buildup over the last week. And from what he said today, it's looking like he's going to play. And yesterday we priced up a bunch of props with him. So people want to get involved with that. And notably, his make or miss the cut prop has been seeing a lot of action. So people want Tiger, and they're going to have their opportunity this week. It looks like it.
Absolutely. Now he was, and we're going to get into some of the favorites here in a second, but since we're on Tiger, he opened up as an 80-1 underdog to win the Masters. It's now, according to superbook.com, it's 60-1. If he says he's a GOAT, tomorrow and the next 2 days, will those odds move again?
Well, when I opened him up last year, we had 100-1, and because it was looking unlikely that he would play, and we actually saw a lot of support for him. In Nevada, we took a ticket for $1,046 on him at 100-1. And then over the past couple of weeks, we've seen an uptick in support, and that lowered him to 80. And with it looking probable that he's going to play, today I went down to 60-1, and that's anticipation of him playing, anticipation of tickets showing up on him. But 60 looks like a pretty stable number at this point, unless we're, again, overwhelmed with support and have to lower it.
Interesting. So definitely check out superbook.com for any line movement. Let's talk about some of the favorites you like, Jeff, going in. First, here are the current odds as of this recording from superbook.com and the SuperBook app. John Rahm is the favorite coming into this year's Masters at 11-1. And then right behind him, you have Justin Thomas at 12-1. At 16-1, you have both Cameron Smith and Scotty Scheffler, who have been on fire. And then three golfers at 18-1, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, and Rory McIlroy. As we talked about, Tiger now at 60-1. Jeff, who are some of the favorites you think could make some noise?
Well, at the current odds, I'd have to look at Brooks Koepka. He's always targeted the majors, and he's actually been in good form recently, which you don't expect to see him play that well in non-majors because he doesn't target them. So with his form being so solid coming in here, I think that's just extra for him. And finding him at 20-1 when he, a few years back when he was winning, you weren't finding him at those odds. So no, I think 20-1 is a fair shot right now in relation to how the other golfers have settled. Obviously, you mentioned Scheffler and Cameron Smith. They played so well over the first part of the season, and their odds are warranted for what they've done on this course and how they're performing with their wins. But you could have found those two golfers 30, 40-1 just a few months ago. So it's a little bit difficult to get involved with them now. So you can find higher odds on guys like Koepka, and they should be able to perform somewhat similar.
Great insight. Let's keep it in that realm, the long shots. Let's go even deeper. Are there a couple of long shots that you'll be keeping an eye on?
Well, I've always been keen to Matt Fitzpatrick. I mean, he's under the radar where he performs top 10 even on PGA Tour events. So he can be right there come Sunday. And, he's used to these adverse conditions that we're expecting with wind, rain. It's not supposed to rain during the tournament, but the wind aspect. And he's seen that on the European Tour. Guys like Joaquin Niemann that's been playing well at the start of the season. And some guys that we've seen sharp play that's really drastically moved their number the past couple of days. Russell Henley, Siwoo Kim have gone from 150 to 1 down to 80 or 60 to 1. So those are some guys to keep an eye on.
Great stuff. Do you have odds on Phil Mickelson just appearing and coming out there, lefty getting it done?
Oh, I can't put that many zeros on how many that would be. So
maybe next year we'll hold off on that one, man. Yeah, great stuff. I love it. I for betting with the Barbers, I always throw out my picks too, and so I'm going to do that for this week. And you can laugh at me, Jeff, but I'm going to go with Scotty Scheffler. He's won 3 times in his past 5 starts. It's on fire right now. Statistically, he and Smith are the 2 best players in the world right now. And I think he has a great opportunity to kind of solidify himself as a top 10 golfer in the world, or better for years to come if he can get it done. I'll take those 16 to 1 odds with him. Your thoughts?
Well, like I mentioned, it's tough right now at 16 to 1 because it's adjusted for what we're seeing and the perception out there. And he's up there in ticket count. So the public is right on your side. But, people just want to take a shot on somebody that can give them a run on Sunday. And right now he's been doing that week in and week out. So that's why we're seeing a lot of support for him.
Great point. It's always awesome to wake up on Sunday morning with a dog or 2 still in the fight to win the Masters. And of course, SuperBook is ready for the tournament and is offering a Masters crystal ball bonus. Just make a single wager of $25 or more on a golfer to win the 2022 Masters tournament, and you will receive a $25 bonus voucher. Get to superbook.com now, sign up, download the app, and get in the game. All right, guys. Well, just when you thought the sports season was slowing down a bit, here come the boys of summer. Major League Baseball's opening day is April 7th. The owners' lockout delayed opening day 1 week, but the 162 game season begins this week and will unveil a new 12-team postseason this year. I'm pretty psyched about that. So with that said, let's talk about the odds-on favorites to make it to the World Series. Here are the current Major League Baseball odds as of this recording coming in from the SuperBook at the Westgate in Las Vegas. Guys, we'll begin in the American League, and the favorite to win the AL pennant, the Blue Jays, come in at plus 450. Right behind them, you have the Astros, White Sox, and the Rays at 6 to 1. And then, of course, the Yankees always hanging around at 7 to 1. Jay, I'll throw it to you first. Your thoughts on the American League and the odds?
Well, I was really hoping that you'd ask me who I liked in the Masters, but we can move on. I'm just kidding.
Of course. Let's take a step back. We have no formats for this show. Come on. Jump in there, man.
No, I was like looking at – I always like some longer shots. I'm a lefty. I don't know if you knew that, Ron, but I'm a lefty. So
I did not.
Partial to some of the lefties like Harmon or Watson, someone like that. I thought Hatton was a good pick. I think that he's in really good form. He's played the course well before, and looking at 85 to 1, something like that, was some good value. And then Cantley was also somebody that I was looking at. He's like all or nothing. If he's in contention, which he's had a couple of top 20 finishes before, and of course I think his game is just terrific. I think that's somebody that you could take a look at. And I'm right with Jeff on Fitzpatrick. Fitzpatrick is kind of a sneaky little sharp pick. Jeff probably got 200 to 1 on him or something like that. I got 90. Jeff always beats me to the price. But going into baseball now, sorry. No, I mean, you look at the American League first, and you look at the Rays. Sometimes it's very difficult to explain why the Rays win. They just find these players out of nowhere, and they compete and they win every single year. They're going to have Franco for a full year this year. And I guess you could look at, their top two pitchers, McClanahan and Paz. Those, if you remember, those two guys started game 1 and 2 of the ALCS last year. So they're right there again. And then you got the White Sox, which is a well-rounded team as well, pitching and hitting. And then the Blue Jays, that lineup the Blue Jays are going to put out there really, really does match up to the Dodgers side. And then you got probably a little gap between that group right there and the Yankees and the Red Sox are following that top group. But look for the usual suspects coming out of the American League.
Absolutely. And Jeff, any thoughts on the American League before we switch over to the National League?
Well, with Jay talking about the Rays, that's one team that we've actually seen sharp play on their under-season wins, and it's moved from 90.5 down to 89.5. And one of our largest liabilities in our future pool is on the Angels. We have excessive liability from early when we first hung the numbers. So the Angels have been very popular, moving from 40 to less than 20 to 1.
Wow. Okay, we'll keep an eye on that. Let's switch over to the National League and the favorites to win the NL pennant. Of course, those Dodgers, as you mentioned, they are the favorites at plus 225. The Braves come in next at 5-1, with the Mets that always seem to be up there, and the Brewers next at 7-1, and the Padres at 9-1. Jeff, why don't you start us off on this one? Your thoughts on the National League odds?
Well, it's going to be interesting with the Mets because of the injuries they're going through with their pitching staff. They look like one of the top teams out there, but now it's going to get sorted out on how long are these guys going to be out and how effective are they going to be when they return. The Dodgers adding Freeman, they're definitely the starting point. But we've seen a lot of handle on the Padres with Tatis going down. We raised his odds up for our MVP market, home run title market, and actually seen some sharp play after making those adjustments. So when he returns, we're going to have plenty of Padre money to overcome this season.
Okay. Keep an eye on that. And Jay, what are your thoughts on the National League?
Well, I think it's the Dodgers and everybody else. I mean, the Dodgers lineup is stacked. I mean, when they signed Freeman, that was just ridiculous. That kind of minimizes the Seager loss. Once they lost him, I thought they would put a little gap, and then next thing you know, they have Freddie Freeman in that lineup. And when you look over that lineup, some of those guys that are batting like 6th or 7th would be batting like 3rd in some of these other lineups around the league. The Braves will be there again. I mean, they're going to get Acuna back, I believe, in May. Is it, Jeff? I mean, somewhere right around there. But the loss of Freeman is not going to hurt him too much because I think Matt Olson fills in very nicely there. Doesn't get a lot of pub, playing in Oakland, but people are going to find out he's the real deal. So not a big loss there after losing Freeman. And then you got the Brewers. I think the Brewers pitching staff ranks right up there with the Dodgers. They got Burns and Woodruff. So they got, Hader and I can't remember the other guy's name, Williams, I think, coming out of the bullpen. They're going to be stacked. That their pitching might be the best. I know Dodgers are loaded, but the Brewers have a loaded pitching staff. So out of those 4 teams, I mean, with adding the Mets are just, it's all about health with them. DeGrom's already kind of banged up and hurting, and Scherzer, who knows what's going to happen with them. But if they were able to be healthy into the playoffs with those type of guys, they can make a run too. But I'll take those top 3 and then everybody else.
A couple other notable teams just to mention, because you have those passionate Cubs fans who will bet on their Cubbies, and no matter what their season looks like. They currently, according to SuperBook.com, they are 40-1 odds. And then because we are live in Arizona, tied with the Pirates are the Diamondbacks, the long shots at 100-1 odds. The Rockies, your Rockies, Jay, not that far behind at 50-1.
Well, the Rockies, I got to tell you, look at the first 6 guys in their lineup. It's not too bad, but I think Crone is a little underrated. I think their new signing, Krychek and Bryan, of course, both have great Coors Field swings. It's going to come down to their pitching. They have 3 okay starters and then a mix after that, which is concerning if you're a Rockies fan, but their bullpen's very questionable. So they're going to have to, they're going to have to put up a lot of runs in Coors Field this year. But you look at the over under 70, Ron, for the Rockies. I think that's about right. But I wouldn't be surprised if they match last year's total, be around 74, 75.
And of course, you'll be out here rooting on your Rockies on opening day, right?
I'll be there on Friday with
in the Kornegay suites, right at Coors Field. I know.
Yeah. Looking forward to that. And hey, I saw the weather report in Denver. It looks nice for once for opening day. So
for once, no snow in the forecast. I think you're going to enjoy it in the 70s as long as it's not too windy. Jay, thank you as always. Hey, Jeff, great job as always. Incredible insight into the Masters. Final thoughts before we let you go.
Well, it's going to be an intriguing week this week. Like, hopefully Tiger plays, which is leaning to him playing. But there's so many other golfers. Each year golf gets better and better with the talent pool and deep and young guys coming up. And that helps our handle with spreading the money all throughout so many attractive golfers. So we're really looking forward to this week.
Awesome. We are going to be a great weekend of sports. Thank you, Jeff. That's going to wrap up another episode of the SuperBook Sports Podcast. Speaking of other sports, can't forget about UFC 273 going down in Florida this Saturday. 2 titles up for grabs. And of course, SuperBook is offering a UFC 273 knockout special. Place $73 or greater wager on the money line on either of those title fights. You got Alexander Volkanovski taking on the Korean Zombie and Chan Sung Jung, or Aljamain Sterling and Petra Yan battling it out. Put up a $73 or greater wager on either of those title fights, and SuperBook will hook you up with a $10 bonus voucher for every knockout, TKO, and DQ that occurs during the entire UFC 273 fight card. And trust me, this card is stacked. There are going to be some knockouts. I mean, golf in the UFC, it just sounds like a match made in heaven for sports fans this weekend. Remember, also, new accounts can receive up to a $500 deposit match in Colorado, Arizona, and New Jersey. And if you're in the area during the Masters or the opening week of the Major League Baseball season, stop by the Lodge in Black Hawk, Colorado, or at the SuperBook at the Westgate in Las Vegas to catch all the action. For our VP of Marketing, Kristen Mackey, our producers, Jeremiah Crow and Mike Rigg, who is still running around outside, I'm sure naked, celebrating in the streets that his Kansas Jayhawks are the national champions. Congratulations, Mike. And our technical guru and social media manager, John Hogland. For my partners in the desert, Jay Kornegay, John Murray, and Jeff Sherman. Follow him at Golf Odds on Twitter. That's Golf Odds on Twitter. I'm Ron Kruck. That is all.